call was the third call today, interesting enough, on the same subject. So I thought that being the case, I'm of the impression that this particular video is probably recycling again. And your question was one in which others might very well be able to benefit from getting a proper response from as well. So, if you don't mind, I wanted to record our discussion so that others might have benefit of whatever dialogue transpires out of it. Would that be all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. So let's do this. First, identify in full how you would like to be recognized as. If you could give me your full appellation and title. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Introduce yourself if you would.
Hello, everyone. I introduced myself as Tyrone DeLaw Adams.
All right. What out of what province are you? What region?
DC.
Okay. District of Columbia. Okay. All right. So your question was an interesting one. And that's the reason for recording this in view of the fact of having received the same question twice this morning. And it's just around, a little after noon. So it must be a hot topic of some sort. Can you explain to those that might be listening in, looking in right now, what is the nature of the question and maybe set it up for us?
Yes, the question I had was, I was watching the Moorish Directory, I believe it was episode 6 on YouTube, and the Canaanite Moor from Canada and the other Moor from the Great Seal was speaking, and they got on the subject of a European who's been walking around, who's well knowledgeable of the fact of the prophet Noble Ali and the message that he was sending to the people, and he wanted to come from under the U.S. U.S. label because he recognized what he was, and he tried to become a member of the Moorish American and couldn't. And so he walks around with a fez and follows the outline that the prophet put in place for us.
Paperwork back, and they sent my money back. I got my Moorish paperwork back, and they sent my money back. As you can see right here, they sent my money back, and they said, "It is with great disappointment that I must return your writs to you for the following reasons. It has come to our attention that you are of European descent. This proclaiming of nationality is for the Moors of blah, 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 blah. In other words, I'm not black, so they won't help me. They won't process my paperwork." And that's actually total bullshit. I mean, there's plenty of white people that claim Moorish nationality, and besides, I'm a Neanderthal hybrid, which means that I'm indigenous to the Yucatan Peninsula at the temple.
And I was trying to get some clarity on, is that possible? Because through what we learned, prophet states that Christianity is their religion. That's how they honor their forefather and mother. And Islamism is ours. That's how we do honor our forefathers. I was just trying to get some clarity on how can you walk around legally and do so.
Well, have you seen the video of the young man that was upset because he was unable to be credentialized?
Say again?
Have you seen the video of the young man who was somewhat upset because he was not able to be credentialized?
No, I haven't seen that. Right?
Okay. Well, I'll put on a clip of that because that may very well be where this is spawning from. And just as a fill-in, what transpired there was that he sent in his documentation and for going through the process of proclaiming one's nationality. And his documents were returned to him with a civil letter that was explaining that it had come to their attention that his lineage was that of European. And so, unfortunately, his request was denied. All right? And he was very upset and animated regarding the rejection. And it was very emotional and probably used some language that, in retrospect, I would suspect as a thoughtful individual, he probably, I think, would have regretted utilizing, perhaps. But his position is that he should be allowed to nationalize in view of him understanding the genesis of his people. And off of that rests the interesting discussion, actually. Because as we know, those things which we create, we have a responsibility for, whatever circumstance, condition, or physical reality that we would manifest or bring into fruition, we then have responsibility. We are responsible to one extent or another for whatever period of time, like a parent would be responsible for a child until such time that they became of age where they were able to handle their own affairs as a non-dependent. Correct?
Correct.
So his position is that since we are responsible of basically his existence, that we should be responsibly providing him with the means, mechanisms, and vehicles, credentials, to have the same leave of the pressures that he feels are being inappropriately placed upon him. And he wants to associate himself with whatever Moorish connection he might have vis-a-vis those matters that transpired in the Yucatan. All right, so with that as being the backdrop, what really has to be defined and differentiated is you have to look at a couple things. And that is, there is a difference between Aboriginal and Indigenous. All right, now, he had an option which he could have exercised. And that would have been to respond, not in the manner in which he did with a lot of emotion and going on YouTube and cursing and the rest, but adopted a position that was a bit more civil by responding with a letter stating, his appreciation for them, communicating with him and informing him as to their reasoning for the rejection. And it would be at that time that he would have an opportunity in his follow-up writ to perhaps suggest, since I am not able, under the conditions that you identified, I would not be able to nationalize or proclaim my nationality. Might it be possible for me to naturalize? But that wasn't an option that he chose, because he may have come back, he may have received a favorable response.
Right.
But in all situations, when you have a plea or request and you're asking someone to bestow onto you something, it's important, and people should take this as a lesson, it's important to ask the right question and be able to identify and differentiate what it is exactly you might possibly be able to obtain legitimately. He may have wanted to make a presentation which identified his understanding of his, that the fact that his lineage is European, and an understanding that it's not Aboriginal, okay? But through the fact that his forebearers have existed here since the time of their initial occupation, perhaps, that he feels a level of indigenousness, that he is, as one would say from Washington, that they're a Washingtonian, right? That they are a from Washington. Now we have to take into account too, and not to cut you off, but just to finish up the point and thought, and that is that we know there is no such thing as 100% pure anything anymore. Everything to a certain extent has been amalgamated. Now when the prophet is talking about I'm not going to try to quote verbatim, and I don't have in front of me to give it justice. So I'll paraphrase that when the prophet was talking about us not assimilating into their community, it's not necessarily, and that's open for debate, stating that there's not a means or a process by which they cannot be refolded back into ours from which they came. Because we are not to assimilate or give up our estate and claim to heritage, lineage, genetics, hereditament, and all which comes with those blood facts, and that we are tied to this land by blood. But there may be, in fact, means and mechanisms, vehicles by which we can responsibly find shelter and safe haven for those individuals who, in earnest, sincerely, wish to begin that arc of change and course correction, that it's possibly through these individuals, keeping in mind, of course, those Thanksgivings and, Trail of Tears and the realities of history that we are faced to remember as to not repeat. But we do have a degree of responsibility to have earnest dialogue over, to start the debate and conversation regarding these important matters. Because with the uplifting of fallen humanity, it has to be discussed as to whether or not all will be uplifted to the same degree. And whether in fact we are looking for actual equality in that process that we will be the governance over.
But see, I thought that their founding fathers were George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and I can't remember exactly the other two. Is it Benjamin Franklin and somebody else?
Yeah, you're talking about those that they call their founding fathers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that that was their way to get correct here. I thought that was their way to get correct, even though they can't.
You're saying you're saying in essence, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying basically for them to reanimate or reestablish basically their correct republic.
Yes.
Okay. Well, one thing we do know is that power does not give itself up freely. Also, we understand that there are means and mechanisms, and those things that one might even be able to debate were operatively, even though it was, utilizing, some science that was, I guess you could call it trickery when you're dealing with compounded interest. You're having a situation set up where, in fact, by science, it's just like Noble Drew Ali understood the importance of the term science being placed in the term within the title of the temple, because we know that if one person, 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 people do something by the same scientific means and modem of operation, then they will receive the same result. So it's through that logic that bankers had established an understanding that they just basically had to set into effect certain agreements, rules, and of contract, and then set their clock as to when exactly that entity, the republic, was going to fall into receivership because of their inability to dig out of the accumulated compound interest. And that those who were shuttling through quickly out at Jekyll's Isle, off the coast of Georgia, the agreement for the bankers to take over, that was a calculated strategy which created the scenario that all have found themselves in. And while we're at the point, matter of fact, I wanted to toss this in for those that might be listening. When we're talking about citizenship, we also have to understand that the Supreme Court, their Supreme Court, had stated that there is no obligation for their law enforcement to protect the individual. They, by extension, of course, is a part of that governance. And for a government to say that they are not responsible for protecting their citizens, the individuals who are the citizens, the people, then basically what they're saying is that they are nullifying citizenship, because citizenship is a contract. It's an agreement that basically states that someone is going to be giving of their allegiance in exchange for protection. It's a two-way street. So if someone is giving on one side their allegiance to a nation or a government in exchange for protection, and then that government says, well, we do not have an obligation to protect the individual, then would that individual have an obligation to continue giving of their allegiance? So this might be part of what the young man was thinking about also, is possibly that he may have come to an understanding, may have finally come to the resolution and understanding, the comprehension that perhaps he's not a citizen of anything, and that he needs to align himself with what he perceives to be a coming forward of circumstances by which he might be able to better himself by aligning with. And I'm of the opinion that at a minimum, those discussions should be began in earnest. And in fact, there are means and mechanisms being put into place as we speak that are going to be addressing these sort of things and other very important matters regarding operative infrastructure from which proper governing bodies can operate on behalf and for the betterment of the people which whom make up that body. So did any of those explanations or anything within it fall short of giving you the information that might have, satisfied your question?
No. Like I always say, brother, everything you share is it's very enlightening. It's a pleasure. So by no means necessary. No.
Okay.
And like I said, I truly and gratefully appreciate everything that you do and say, because I think it helps a lot of Moors out there get a true understanding of things that we at times we struggle with, especially if you're new in the movement of the Moorish American. It definitely enlightens me.
Right. And we have to keep in mind also that the the temple is the temple, okay? And it is inside of or a part of the movement. That it does not define the movement. And that its important role as a body is a spiritual one, but of course all governance should be firmly anchored on a spiritual base, firm foundation. But we should not get mixed up in thinking that they are one and the same, but do understand the very important and critical role that they have to play. It's one half of the coin. And the clear separation between church and state, once established needs to have a very porous interfacing of the two, so that it is a unification or reunification and reanimation of joint powers, so to speak, that will allow for the most optimum degree of functionality. So there are those ways and means being put into place as we speak to deal with those types of issues, the issues regarding the Moabites' human rights not to be abused, as was in episode 7, and I think I'll place this as episode 8. So as a follow-up, and I'd like to also ask that you, in your circle, your circle of youth, that youth energy also began to have that conversation with respect to how very important it is, because when you called initially, your first statement was how important it was to make that proclamation regarding the fact that Moors are not supposed to be putting their hands on females for any reason, shape, or form. And so what I'm saying is that I would be appreciative of you and all who might be listening to have within their particular bodies and groups that same conversation, so that it is not, these types of things are not closeted. That would be no difference than the pedophiles in the Catholic Church being shuttled around, cloaked or protected.
Yes, I agree.
Because what is immorally inappropriate should not be allowed to exist in the light of day. Exist, period. To be sanctioned in any form. It needs to be eradicated. Point blank. And without, any sort of hesitation or consideration of anything other than that. No, ambiguousness. Just, it will not be tolerated, as well as no means no. And you're not to bring physical harm to women. So I appreciate you expressing that.
And once again, I thank you for everything, brother. Because like I say, every time I speak with you, I leave with a smile on my face. Because the knowledge that the energy that you put out is amazing. And that I truly believe that any more listeners should definitely take heed to what you speak of, and if anything, go to your website and truly understand what can be done and what will be done, as long as we all put forth the effort.
Well, I always appreciate your kind words, and I mean that sincerely. I don't say this, just as a phrase. I am sincerely honored, and I'm quite fortunate, so very fortunate to have been provided by the grace of Allah the ability to have the information and to be able to respond appropriately. And that's simply by the grace of Allah, nothing that I earn nor necessarily deserve, but I'm truly thankful for. And I'm just as thankful for the youth community, and those active Moors who are putting in their time and energy assisting in the, how could I put this, stabilizing of the fledgling infrastructures which are coming into being. And I appreciate you mentioning the MoorisDirectory.com, because it is a very important aspect, I believe, of an institution that has the best welfare of our people at heart. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, and I like I say, I have a lot of clarity after this, and I hope it did help other Moors grasp or understand if they did not understand. And as well, I pray for my also and our Holy Divine Prophet, Noble Ali.
Absolutely.
He's been a very, very, very big person in my direction.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what. You know, positive coalitions on every opportunity are always great. And you know, this is an example. This one-on-one conversation is an example of how we can, through these stages, phases, these increments, in fact, find our way to bringing into fruition those things in which the prophet foretold. And this, in fact, is the time when those possibilities can be realized. And we can begin the process of moving from the purely academic discussions, teachings, and all of those great study groups and the rest, family reunions and things of that nature that need to continue to be proliferated and expanded by all means, but now also begin the process of implementation, in that this is the application era. We have moved through and are still in the information era, but we're now in that extended portion in which we need to begin applying that which we've learned. Case in point, on the MoorisDirectory.com's call to action page, as you know, there is a writ there that is extremely transformable. It can be applied to a great many things.
Right.
And it's by utilizing such language that allows for others to not only educate themselves, but also to be armed with the verbiage required in order to articulate that which they need in an appropriate manner to obtain it in a reasonable course of time, because a lot of this stuff is very time sensitive that people are dealing with.
And also, I would like to bring up too that another thing that I appreciated from the Moors from the Great Seal and the Canaanite Moors was that the fact that they're policing these road Moors that they see out here misleading and taking the movement and dirtying it up. And I think that needs to be done on a more constant basis, because that's one way we're going to truly head in the right direction, by policing those that are trying to shed a negative light on the prophet, or the prophet border.
Right. Well, I certainly agree with you with respect to both of those groups, as well as I truly appreciate those individuals as well spearheading those coalitions, and of course have an extremely high degree of respect and appreciation for such people as Sheikh, our brother Kujo Adwo El in Canaanland, and as well as the sisters that are give of their energies consistently by way of their blog talk radio program, the Eyes Wide Open Moorish History School, which can be accessed and they're very accessible for communications on each Tuesday evening. I believe it is at 9:30, which one should always try to call in a little bit earlier so they can get in the queue. But it's not hard to Google and get the rest of the information off of that. And as we know also, and not to exclude Brother Ms. Marine, who in fact is another one of those constants there, providing of his knowledge and information and energies. And of course that is an extension, in my opinion, of RV Publications.com, which our dear sister Roz Mariah has proven the manner in which our positive institutions can take root in our community and act as a template and example as to how it's done right. She's done a fantastic job, and from what I've seen, has no intentions on lighting up, so or lessening in any way, shape, or form. And I appreciate you acknowledging that. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead. I've got a few things that are actually somewhat time sensitive on this end as well. And I need to make a couple calls back that I saw were coming in. Brother Nunnaji L, who is another one of the young generation who has been extremely instrumental in assisting on all fronts, as well as Sister Charisse. And matter of fact, the two of them have been doing a fantastic job with ActiveMoors.com, as well as Active Space, and dealing with those strengthening and stabilizations of the Moor book operations, which are going to be expanding in a more user-friendly way in the very near future. And we have really high hopes with respect to that. So you can expect to be seeing some really fantastic things coming out in the very near future.
Okay, and like I said, I greatly thank you for everything, Brother Jonathan today, and I hope you continue to prosper, and may Allah in the process hear you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, and you as well. Until next time we speak, you continue to prosper as well, and I wish you peace and love, brother. Islam.